The summer of 2023, the Kylian Mbappe story took yet another turn. 2022 included his dramatic U-turn in not joining Real Madrid, but this year the saga involved leaked letters, ultras, world record transfer fees, and mysterious Instagram posts. This is the story of Mbappe's summer of chaos. In any other summer, Lionel Messi and Neymar would be bigger stories. But those exits were long anticipated, desired even, whereas Mbappe's situation has been and remains much more ambiguous. In the summer of 2022, he was expected to leave PSG as a free agent. In the event, he extended his contract by a further 2 years, shocking the world in the process, but that only actually served to kick the can down the road. And that was because while that new contract included an option for a third year, only Mbappe had the power to actually activate it. The decision over whether he intended to extend had been due to be made by July 31st, 2023. But on Monday, the 12th of June, the day after Mbappe had been pictured watching the men's French Open final at Roland Garros, news broke that he presented PSG with a formal letter explaining that he would not be taking up the option. Mbappe wanted to play for the club in the 23-24 season and then leave at the end of it for free. It was PSG's nightmare. Again, they were facing the prospect of losing the world's most valuable player for nothing in return. And PSG were upset, both by the fact that Mbappe's letter had been publicized and because, in their eyes, he'd given them assurances that he would not leave the club for free, something he would refuse. "We cannot let the best player in the world right now leave for free. That's impossible," said club president Nasser El-Khelaifi on July 5th. According to reporting by The Athletic, as well as fearing the footballing implications of Mbappe's departure, failing to receive a fee for him would also leave the club with financial fair play concerns and inhibit their ability to recruit new players. PSG retaliated with their own letter. Running to 3 pages, it accused Mbappe of causing enormous harm to the club by leaking his original letter and of aggravating the situation by stating publicly that he wished to leave as a free agent. It also included an ultimatum and a deadline. Either Mbappe triggered his contract extension by July 31st, or he would be sold. That, the letter claimed, was the only option to avoid lasting paralysis caused by your recent actions. Now, there was no immediate response to the letter, but the club were not for moving. Instead, they doubled down and announced that Mbappe would not be part of the first-team squad for the club's tour of Japan and South Korea. Instead, he was sent to train in the loft, the colloquial name given to a group of players at the club who were either too young for first-team football or have been told to find new clubs. At PSG, that's quite a famous group. Mbappe made it more so. He even posted a picture on Instagram, showing him alongside Jordi Wijnaldum, Julian Draxler, Leonardo Paredes, and other undesired players and unknown youth teamers. Throughout July, a whole host of clubs were rumoured to be interested in him, yet the only significant offer came from Saudi Arabia. On the 24th of July, Al Hilal, who would sign Neymar later in the summer, made a €300 million offer for Mbappe, which PSG accepted. It would have been a new world record, but Mbappe and his entourage refused to even meet with the Saudi officials. And in August, there were more twists. New head coach Luis Enrique expressed that he was hopeful that a truce could be agreed. The head of the club's ultras was interviewed on Canal Plus and also expressed the same hope. And on the opening night of the season, there were signs of optimism. Despite Mbappe still, for all intents and purposes, excluded, he was pictured in the stands at Parc des Princes for PSG's opening game of the Liga season against Lorient. And he was also filmed heading towards the home dressing room. Earlier that day, he'd sent a welcome message on Instagram to the club's new signing, Ousmane Dembele, who's also his best friend. The two were then seen sitting next to each other, alongside Kylian's younger brother, his mother, and also his father, with Nasser El-Khelaifi close by. The game was a goalless draw, but the next morning, in a press release, the club announced that, following very constructive and positive discussions between PSG and Kylian Mbappe before the PSG-Lorient game, the player has been reinstated into the first-team training squad this morning. In fact, a brief meeting between Mbappe and Nasser El-Khelaifi had taken place earlier that week, but the announcement was still a dramatic about-turn. It also drew all sorts of speculation. The arrival of Dembele was naturally considered to have had a positive effect. The departure of Neymar for €90 million too was certainly helpful, given the club's concerns about FFP. And maybe there was a personal angle too. Intriguingly, in the days after that transfer, Neymar liked an Instagram post claiming that Mbappe had influenced his departure from the club. He'd cited an Équipe report that suggested that Mbappe had been lobbying for Neymar's departure since the summer of 2022. By their own admission, the pair's relationship had always been hot and cold. Now, whether that transfer was an influence or not, the situation isn't really much clearer now. Mbappe remains heavily linked with Real Madrid, and a transfer remains possible. And because release clauses in contracts are outlawed in French football, it remains difficult to see how an extension could be agreed upon, or, given the acrimony that's characterized this episode, how a true reconciliation could take place.